into our adult states, just kidding, into the next presentation. So Buford, any closing comments to wrap up?
Young people that are watching this, I just encourage you to keep it up. Keep it up, learning. You're always learning. They'll never come to an end to learning. As I said, I was just out in Intercom with Bob too, and just talking to people, chatting to people. There's always something to pick up. There's from individuals around you. Don't think that I like that. Well, a name I don't necessarily put it in there. Doesn't matter if it did or not. I don't think. But owner of a large sound company. We were talking about this subject, and he says, "Yeah." Says, whenever I get somebody, an employee that thinks he knows all there is to know, he says, I tell him to come to my office and I'll help him get a job. So if you kind of put that together, and I agree with him totally, when you know all there is to know, then hopefully you can find somebody that can take that. But we're always learning, so keep that up. And I admire that in people. The people around you admire that. It's not getting the job. Ask questions. Get out there to get involved with it. We have very little time on the road to be able to experiment, but I did it all the time. Whenever I'd have time, set up microphones, test them, listen to them. I don't care whose name's on it. I just revolve it around, see characteristics of the microphone to myself, prove it to myself. Prove what it is to plug something else in and see what you can do with it, what you can get it to do, what you can't get it to do, and put those things in your cookbook so that when you decide on your own, you take that responsibility, but try to reproduce the artist's signature. But if you can add a little something to that, well, then that's great. But learning is most of it all. And it's a great career. I cannot begin to describe to you what it is to sit in front of 20, 30, 40,000 people, 100,000 people and more, and to mix sound, and you have your fingers underneath those controls. That can come to anyone who puts their heart into it, puts their desire into it, puts their passion into it, and starts getting in the groove. It'll take you a while if you haven't for those starting. It'll take a while to get in that groove of working with artists that can give you those opportunities, but they happen and they're going to continue to happen. Entertainment is not going away, and somebody needs to control it. So it's a wonderful field to get into. Just keep up the study and keep up the great work.
All right. Thank you so much, Buford.
Very welcome.
All right, you guys. So for those of you who were here the first day, you heard from Bob McCarthy talk for a little bit. We had a little bit of time with him. And then he called me up last night and he said, hey, I enjoyed hanging out with those guys so much. I'd like to come back. So I adjusted the schedule a little bit. And Bob McCarthy has agreed to come back to talk a little bit about Metallica. Now, since this is kind of a last minute change, we're just going to be flexible with the time. So we've got about an hour, but if it takes less time, then we'll just speed up some other things in the agenda. And if it takes a little bit more time, we'll just have to see how it goes. So thanks everyone with your patience, but I know we all definitely appreciate the opportunity of hearing some more from Bob. So I think everybody knows who Bob McCarthy is, but if you don't, he works at Meyer Sound, working in the optimization department, and he's also the author of Sound System Design and Optimization, which is a excellent green book that everyone should have on their bookshelf. So Bob McCarthy, welcome back to Live Sound Summit.
Thank you, Nathan. And it's great to see Buford. Always a great person to learn from. And I'll tell you, you put together a really nice team of diverse professionals that can teach you a bunch of different things. And I completely agree with Buford's, what he says about the learning part. To me, I watch a lot of Broadway guys, and they are in a great position to specify a new show all the time. And what the rule there is, they take each show as an opportunity to try something. They don't want to, you don't experiment on everything, but you do, a controlled little portion of your of your thing, so that it's something that if it totally does fail, then you can put a Band-Aid on it and move on. But that's a way you learn what about this great microphone? How would you know it if you never used it? Or this technique? And I've been part of some pretty epic, like, no, that's definitely never going to be tried again because that was not going to work. But how would you know if you don't?
Yeah, that's perfect. I'll just mention that, see, you were here earlier today, but John Burton talked about how he really enjoyed, sometimes he's on a lot of big tours, but he really enjoys a smaller club tour because then he'll get to kind of investigate every small club's like microphone relics and
Mm-hmm.
dive in there and learn a new microphone kind of at every place that he goes to.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Bob, so I will surrender the screen share. I'm sure you have some things you want to share with us.
Yeah.
And I think you know how to do that.
Okay. Okay. It's probably not Natasha Bertrand. It's probably this. Okay. What I thought, I'd heard Nathan talk about how he was, had been looking for some additional people who was going to fill the times himself. And I thought, well, I have a nice little short subject, and it's an interesting one, of a challenging world tour that I got to be part of with the band Metallica. And so you can see a picture here of Metallica on an arena stage. This is actually from a previous year, and you'll see you can see the main system's very clean. The band is an in the round configuration. The band really favors the in the round because they want to be right up close to the people. They literally want to be able to just reach out and feel the people close in. So they keep this super clean stage that has no guitar amps on it, and the people in really close. And then right in here at the top is a thing called the TM array. If you're not familiar with the TM array, it's basically 40 subwoofers with 218s each. They're all pointing into that little hole in the center. So basically every single subwoofer is facing inward, making a circle. And that makes a 360 degree, it's the ultimate point source. It's literally a point source as you can get. So it makes 360 degree surround sound, or I guess it's not surround sound, but it's a 360 degree point source. And it only comes in that flavor. If you want 270 degrees, do something else. A TM array will get you one thing. But so this is another picture of that same thing, and you can see the main arrays very clean out of the sight lines, giving the lighting lots of room. And then there's some front fills on the stage, but you can figure the front fills are not going to be able to get very far because you've got people in the way. But you want to know, how does this beautiful, clean stage configuration or PA configuration that you see here turn into this, which is like, what even the heck is that? It looks like somebody's inventory being flown up there into the ceiling for storage. And what are these things? Well, I'd like to introduce you to Lightzilla. I call it that. But it's a lighting system that was designed, created by Metallica's creative people, Dan Brown, the manager for Metallica. And he came to me and he said, look, I've got this really great idea of this awesome lighting thing, and my great solution for lighting is a great problem for you that you need to solve. And what that means is that his thing is so heavy that you can't occupy any weight. We can't put any weight in the center area of the stage. So basically, we're going to push the PA out and essentially turned the PA into a distributed system. And I want you to think about those words together. Metallica, distributed system. Does that sound like it goes together? I mean, it's like heavy metal, high impact. To me, the essence of Metallica is the impulse. It is all about impulsive impact. And so the band is super tight, super transient. And so a distributed system would seem like the inverse of what would be good for them. You can intuitively see the TM array and go, well, that makes sense for them, right? But the other thing that Dan Brown wanted, he wanted everyone to have the feeling of a near field experience. They wanted to feel like the PA was close to them, that the band was close to them. They've done that with the center stage, and they want the feeling like everybody is close in. Well, that's great, but that's going to be a challenge. And the reason these things are so heavy, it's not because there's a 4-foot LED cube, but it's the fact that they are on motors and a gyroscope, and so they fly up and down, so they're a huge dynamic load. And then there's the gigantic rack of controls and mechanical equipment to run them, and that's what put all the weight up there. So that's what evicted us from our normal position, and that's where the story begins.
Hey,
Okay.
Bob.
Yes.
Can I just ask real quick, do you know why center positions for the Lightzilla?
Why the center? Because it's a center stage.
Oh, it needs to be right above the stage. Okay, got
It's
it.
in the round stage, and I've got pictures of it in use. You'll see it's each one of those lights is a very light, so the cubes can come up and down. The very lights can spin anywhere, and that's the key thing. They do projections on them, and projections from them, both individual and then combined projections, making a reassemblable video wall that can be segmented or put together. It's quite innovative. Okay, so before we go to that, here's another picture of it, sort of giving you the idea. Before we go to that, we still have one more picture. Okay, I can come back to these once we've identified all the parts. You'll start to see what the moving parts are. Okay, so before this tour was a stadium tour that we went through the summer of 2017. The indoor tour is going to start in the fall. But here we are now, and we're outdoors. We're doing stadiums around the world, and this is a more traditional type of system. 4 main hangs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 inners and 2 outers, and 3, 1, 2, 3 delay hangs. And that's what's going to allow you to do football stadiums and the like. The inner hangs were actually smaller than the outer hangs, and the reason being that the inner hangs covered the floor, which is a flat plane and a pretty small angle in terms of the you didn't have to splay your cabinets out a lot. And so we used 18 cabinets there, and we had 20 cabinets of the Leo system, 20 cabinets for the side systems, the outers, because they had to swing all the way from the blue seats you see there all the way up to there. So they had big wide splay angles, and yet they still had to cover a long distance. So we threw a couple more cabinets at them. This tent here is the mixed position for sound. And this was the mixed position for lighting until they decided, let's put sound and lighting together, and we'll make this the position for rich people to drink champagne. Okay, that's what you do. Okay, so the main system was a Lion system, or a Leo system, which is Myrosound's most high power speaker. And then we had the 1100 LFC, that's our low frequencies, and then we had also the VLFC. These are not the quantities, these are the names of the subsystems. There was actually 46 of these VLFCs. Then we had 3 Lion delay relay towers, and then a pile of Galaxy processors running on AVB. You've all heard of Dante, I'm sure. Well, AVB is the open source networking platform that is the alternate to Dante, and we're seeing we have an alliance of manufacturers working together on an open source protocol, and we've implemented that, and a couple of other manufacturers have also implemented products on AVB, and that is where things will be going at some point. Okay, so here we are. There's the inners and the outers, and there's a little spot on my head you can easily notice in this photo. That's from when I went under the stage to position the spacing of the subwoofers and bonked my head on a beam, and was after that forbidden to go under the stage anymore. It's like, okay, I'll just tell you where to put them, and on we go. So the rest of this is all, of course, a video screen. It's a very low dense mesh video screen, so this wind can get right through it, which is nice. And on you go. This is your basic layout. Here's your inner main, your outer main, and your delay and delay. I've just got half of the system shown because that way you can see it a lot easier. So that's the video screens going across. You also notice this stage in front. They call this is called the snake pit, and they do one song out on this stage where they say let's go back to the old days when we were just a garage band, and you'll invite you to our garage for an intimate moment. And one of the funny moments was when Lars, the drummer, said, you know, why is the PA so late? Because it has to go 100 milliseconds to get there, and you can't exactly speed things up. And the real answer was, because you guys are famous. When you played in the garage, it was not so late because you were just in a garage. But this is not like that now. So nice. Of course, the drums didn't have microphones. They were sampled when they're out there. But the normal drums are here, and they are indeed mic'd, and we have all that gain to pour to the place. Okay, so that's your basic system. That's your outers, which you can see have a lot of arc in them, and those are the inners, which you see are aimed down and have very little angle in them. Okay, so that's the horizontal coverage. There's your inners and your outers, and here will be the main systems, which you see from the back. They're going this way, and these are your spotlight tower, and then here's they are going that way. Okay, so there's another bird's eye view. There's your three towers, and you're looking up into the region where the delays are covering from here. This is an interesting thing for me. I was told, don't worry about covering this back area because nobody goes there except for the beer vendors and the t-shirt vendors. And it was the hardest thing for me to get my head around, that I was going to leave a gap in the coverage between the mains and the delays. But I eventually got it when I actually saw a concert, and indeed nobody's there but the beer vendors and the t-shirt vendors. So we basically let the coverage go dark here before lighting it back up once you reach this barrier. But that's a pretty good view there. You can also see on the first shows that I saw you there, the subwoofers were in front, and they made, I'll go back to that picture, an early one. You can see the subwoofers blocking. See that big kind of block there? That was in front of the video screen, and they didn't like that, and they asked us, can you work with us? And so we brought the subs back behind, and you can see them actually behind the system there. So that essentially becomes your T0. It could get through the the video screen with no trouble at all. Okay, so there's your delay towers. This is the 90-degree speaker called the Orion M, which is the top 8 boxes. So that's covering deep. And then these are the Lion Ws, which are about 110 degrees, 120 degrees, and they cover the bottom 8 boxes. So they spread out quickly and get the job done where the people are close, and then the other ones take longer to open up and take care of that. Now you might say, well, why are you covering here where there's no people? Well, there actually were people here. It's just, you cannot believe how crappy the CAD files you get for stadiums are. They just didn't even have these on file, but they're there. They've sold those seats, I can tell you. Okay, so now let's look at the vertical. That's the more interesting thing. What you see here is our main system. I told you it had very narrow split angles. The top 8 boxes are slated about, or literally at 1/2 degree, and then it starts opening up from there, finally getting to 5 degrees at the bottom. Up here, they're in 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and finally 7 degrees at the bottom. So it's a much wider spread of angles because you've got like 50 degrees of vertical coverage versus about 18 vertical in this way. Then there's a little system sitting here it's right there under the tower. It's kind of like having a pop gun, bringing a pop gun to a shooting range. It doesn't go, it only covers a little area. It kind of looks like it's doing a lot on this plot, but really, when you think about it in the plan view, it's just right there on the ground, and it basically covers people who have no reason to stand near the towers, but I guess they're drunk, so they do. So literally the least important speakers in the PA. You've got, this is your main system coverage, which you can see, indeed, I did let it die out for the t-shirt people. And then the next system picks up and takes it all the way to the top. So that's your Leo mains, that's your Lion delays. And then here they are together. And along with a little leopard fill system, it plugs it all up. Okay, so here they are in concert. The Metallica guitar players are very large people, as you can see. And they are clones. But so there's your outer, inner, and outer. This is at about the depth of the mix position. Here is at the depth, 200-meter depth. This is in Mexico City at an elevation of 7,500 feet with a humidity of 20%, between 10 and 20% during sound check, which if you look up your tables of the worst thing that can happen in terms of air loss, that's pretty much it. But the sound, we did get a little more humidity at the by showtime, which really helped deliver high end instead of losing it as friction. And the delay towers you can barely see, but there's one, and there's one, and you're listening to the center delay tower here, and they were very clear and good times. Okay, this is Big Mick and Jay. Jay is Big Mick's assistant for forever. Big Mick has mixed Metallica for 35 years. He's very much a legend. He was all done with filming from Lord of the Rings, so he's back in the saddle with Metallica. This is now, we're going to move into the low frequencies, so let's talk about the low end. There's basically 3 arrays. There's the 1100s on the deck. There's an 1100 array flying, which I can go back to. I didn't show you those. They are hidden in this thing. That's the flying array. So this flying array was beamy enough in the vertical that it went over the musician's head. And these array, which you can see is an end fire array of 5 units deep, is near the stage, but it's so directional that it misses the stage by the horizontal. So basically, there was no low end on the stage unless they went out to that that little point, the promontory at the end of the snake pit. That's why they noticed it there. Okay, back to moving forward. So we're going to detail in here. These are the 1100s. They cover the range, the normal subwoofer range, 28 hertz, 30 hertz to 90 hertz. Okay, so they're your double 18 normal thing. These are the VLFCs, which are the very low frequency subwoofers, and they cover from 15, 16 hertz up to 30 hertz. So what you have now is a system that can go from 15 hertz to 15 kilohertz, a 1,000 to 1 range of frequencies and wavelengths being delivered here. Okay, so let's go through these. This is a 5 deep end fire, and it's 4 deep here, and we can get a photograph of this, 3 high, 5 deep, and then you look at this one and go, well, why didn't you do 3 high there? Well, there's a very serious design factor. This is all planned very carefully. The design factor here is called what's in the truck. Okay, so it was there. There was 2 more. That's where we put them. And if there was a 3rd, I would have made it look nice. But there you go. Okay. So here you can see them again. Same thing, except there's the other set that you can sort of see. And this is a little fill speaker, because literally I have audience up to this barrier. And it was virtually a wind tunnel. If you went from here, it was like very tolerable right here. And you got right here, and it was like W, T, and 3 Fs from that point. This is the response there. You can see it's very, very directional. This is 31 hertz. We have a really, really very clean cardioid thing. Now, actually, in my design, the original design, that system was pointed at about 30 or 40 degrees out, so that I knew that the inner mains were pointed straight, so I wanted these to point out in order to get a little better low end climbing up the side of these stadiums. But that was nixed, not for acoustic purposes, but for egress. That's the fancy word for security. Says you can't block the emergency exit paths. So that's all the room we had. We did try to steer it out electronically, but with only 2 units wide in the horizontal plane, you can't steer it out electronically. So basically, if it looks like the low end was down here, then you're looking correctly, because it was. But that's what you have when reality bites. This is the response at 63 hertz, which is even more directional. And there you go. So now this is this VLFC, which I mentioned before. And it's quite an interesting product. I was really excited when we developed this. It was developed with, really driven by Metallica, that wanted this design to happen because they wanted to be able to create pyrotechnic effects, the experience of explosion and impact, and creating the fight or flight emotional response, that instinctive emotional response. They wanted to be able to create that without having large pyro, because they had injuries in the past. You can look up Metallica pyro accident on the internet, and you will find some pretty horrific stories, not the least of which was to James Hetfield, the lead singer. So they wanted to be able to produce this impact, and the VLFC, they knew that they had an instinct that getting the low frequencies to create that real impact of low frequency point source would trigger that, and they were correct. So I was really excited to get to be part of this. And what was interesting to me, it's not often you get on a plane going to hear a speaker and at my age and with my level of experience and say, wow, I have no idea what's going to happen here, what this is going to sound like, how we're going to work with this. And the really shocking thing to me was how natural the whole experience was, because it extends the range down to 15 hertz, which is a region that we have not heard in sound systems, but we've heard it in all natural things in our life. You've always heard it from a kick drum just sitting there. You've heard it from a fireworks explosion. You've heard it from a door slam. All those things go down to that range. Only sound systems don't. And we're just used to 30 hertz for sound systems. We accept that. But when you hear a sound system go down to 15 hertz and you get used to that for a little while, it's like, man, that really connects to our natural experience, and it's pretty darn addicting. Okay, so now we're going to control this thing, and here's the same picture, but here they are, and what you notice is that the spacing is double the size of the previous spacing. If you looked at those ones, went 5 deep in the same distance it takes me to go 3. Why do we have to go twice as deep? The reason we have to go twice as deep is that the wavelengths are twice as big. So if you want to control 15 hertz, the same way you controlled 30 on the speaker, you need to double the spacing, because that's what these guys respond to. And so, so there they are, hidden under the stage, and they go 3 meters deep and 3 meters deep again. So it's 6 meters total. It's a complete. It takes 18 milliseconds of delay to bring these front back to the in line to the ones that are at the rear of the chain.
Hey, Bob, does the stage not have a boundary effect that changes that? Does that work?
Well, it's, of course, we'd love to have the stage not there, but at these frequencies, there were pretty much just ignore. It takes a lot to push around a 60-foot wavelength, and that's what 15 hertz is. So the steering was very successful. You could stand on the stage, and they were astoundingly quiet there. And there's an end to this story. There's a part 2 to the reason why I'm telling you about how clean the stage is. You're going to hear this is going to come back to bite us. It's the moral of never spoil your musicians, because once whatever you've given them a clean stage, then they expect that they will get that for the rest of their life. And when we get to the arenas, this will happen. Okay, so the response that you're seeing right now on the screen is the end-fire array response of the VLFCs at 20 hertz. And that's pretty darn amazing when you think about how omni those speakers are at 20 hertz and how large those wavelengths are. We got a tremendous amount of control. And then this is the response. The next one is 25 hertz. So that was the story there. So that's the VLFC. Now I'm going to show you those guys. This is them, and this is the frequency response. And it takes a minute to digest this frequency response, because that number 13 is not an abbreviation. That's the actual real number. And there you can see you're getting out there. And I have to tell you, from a marketing point of view, I so badly wanted this thing to get to 11 hertz so that we could say, ours go to 11. But didn't quite make it there. So there you can see, this is what you remember from Thomas Newman's thing. You've learned what coherence is, and take a look at that coherence. This is during the concert, and you have coherence from 13 hertz to 32 hertz that's at the top of the friggin' screen. Okay? I mean, we have completely got you direct sound in that region. So it's, and you can clearly see the phase response. This is now a picture of basically the four-way system. This is your VLFC, which 15 to 30. Then at 30, we merge with the 1100s, which reach it to 85, which then hand it over to the Leo, and then hand it over to the Leo high driver. So this is the response, and you can see the phase responses laying over each other, the two different colors. lay over each other at 30 hertz, and then lay over each other again at 90 hertz. That's how we're phase aligning the Leos and the main and the 1100s, and then the 1100s and the VLSC. So basically, you run those guys together and to make it one big long phase trail. There we are zoomed in. You can see that's our response. Okay, and you might think there's not much material down there. This is during the concert, and it was interesting to me that the bass guitar in Metallica, which is actually has a very large amount of harmonic distortion. It's a very buzzy bass. If you know their music, you would know this very flappy, buzzy sound. But even still, he was generating stuff down there at 16 hertz and stuff. You can see that the way that sim works is that the red line goes, it's on a peak track mode, so it goes to what is the largest peak at any given moment, and there it is. With the whole system is being led by 18 hertz. And if you read string theory, and I don't mean from the Big Bang Theory TV show, but like string theory of a bass guitar, you shouldn't have 18 hertz. But if you hit any instrument with and create an impulse, which is what slapping the palm does or hitting a plectrum on a string does, creates an impulse that will create a something that will link hypothetically down to DC, and that's what we're seeing is that palm hit on the bass extends down there to 18 hertz, and it makes a tremendous impact then when that is hit in the music. You won't be able to hear much of this, but we'll play it anyway. But I want you to notice this is the big sound effects moment where they drop bombs. It's a video of war. It's a song called One. They drop bombs, and I've got the smart spectrograph, and you're going to see this thing play out. And you're going to see the spectrum up here, and you're going to see the spectrograph here. So I'm going to hit the play button.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
If you want us to hear it, then you should. Do you want us to hear it?
Oh, sure. Yeah, but you won't hear it to 16 hertz, of course. But yeah, sure.
So you'll probably have to stop sharing your screen and share it again. And when you do, there's an option when you choose share screen. There's a checkbox that says share computer audio.
Okay. So do I pause share? Is that what I do?
You'll have to stop sharing and then start again.
Okay. I don't see. Is it stop video? Because I have my choices are pause share. Oh, stop share. I see the big nasty red one. Got it. Okay. So I just stopped share. I see your head. And now what am I supposed to do?
Share screen again.
Okay.
But this time, you'll see there's an option on the bottom, I think bottom right, there's a checkbox that says include computer audio.
Okay. Share computer sound. Okay, so when I do that, then you'll lose my voice?
No, you'll have both.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. Seriously.
We don't see your screen yet.
Good, because it's making me type passwords.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Okay, here we go. Do you see it now?
I see it.
Okay, so here's 31 hertz, and there's a big boom. You can see it boomed all the way down to 16. Can you hear the sound?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so right now there's various explosions and things went off, and you hear that streamer. There's the streamer. Okay, and we're going to get a plane flying overhead, and it's going to drop the big bomb. Here it comes, and boom, all the way down to 13 hertz right there. Okay, so that's, and let me just tell you, it's the first time I've ever had a speaker get applause. People are just knocked out. So I can just carry on. I don't have anything more with sound, but it doesn't matter, right? I don't need to.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You can just
Okay.
keep going.
Okay, cool. Okay. So now it's time to move to the arena tour. We got 3 sound trucks. We've got 32 hangs, 54 rigging points. And that's just, the 54 rigging points is just sound, okay? And so 8 hangs of leopards, 4 long mains, 4 side mains, and 4 end fire arrays of subwoofers, and 4 upper mains. Now, the upper mains, you're going to think those look like delays. There's a story there, and I'm going to explain to you those. We made sure to call those upper mains. Okay, here we go. So I want to introduce you to the players visually. You can see them. This guy right here that's aimed, even the uppermost speaker is aiming down. That's the Leo. Those are the long side mains, and those go and cover the floor of the long sides and whoa, sorry, and maybe the 100 level. This is another one of those. So that's a leopard main. And then over here is a lion main, which goes from plus 15 degrees at the top to minus 53 degrees at the bottom. And then this guy right here, you can see one of them. There's 8 of these. That is the downfill array, which gets you from minus 53 degrees and finishes the job at minus 95. It literally has to cover people that are behind it. So I want you to hear those numbers again. The coverage overall of this system goes from plus 15 degrees to minus 95. That's 110 degrees of vertical coverage, okay? And then this guy here, this staggering event here, this is what replaced the TM array. The subwoofers had to not only move out of the center, they had to move so far off center to get us enough weight to get away from these guys. And so we had to get them to quickly come down to the floor. And that's why you're seeing not just an end fire for directionality, because you got 4, you need directionality because you got 4 mains. So you got to have it be controlled, or you're just going to be splashing everywhere. But then we needed to make it so that they focus down. They're mechanically focused down, as you can see, and they are delayed to bring their response down to the floor. Here is another one of these leopard arrays facing flat on its face. Okay. Okay. So here is the overall system, and I'm going to introduce you. That's Lightzilla right there, and that's the stage. I'm going to zoom in closer. There's Lightzilla. And you can see there's the stage. And people, the barricade is so close that it is underneath the lighting truss. If that lighting truss fell, people would die. Okay? And that's why we have to cover behind there. Okay? So now you can see, I want you to think about the coverage starts with the leopard. They take it from the front and think of them as facing flat down, so they almost make a rectangle of coverage. And that's the way to think about their coverage. You can't think about them in angles in the traditional way. Think of them as a square, and we've got every seat more than covered. We have enough horizontal and vertical to cover the entire floor. Okay? So then our key thing is we're going to hand it off to the next system, which is the Leo, which is heading this way. Okay? And these are the long side mains. And this happens to be the shortest of the long sides of the arena, so it's a little bit strange. Every other arena was longer and deeper this way. And these are the upper mains, which, again, because the Leos are heavy, so we couldn't go with the full stack, so we basically had to chop their top off and move the top out. On most arenas, this is out much further, but essentially it's going to cover the 200 and 300 sections, and Leo will cover the floor and the 100. That's your story there. The next guy up, next guy up, next guy up, and then we hit the side mains. They are the Lion, and so they have a shorter throw, and they need to get wider. So that's why we use them. They're a wider horizontal, and they're 3 dB less power. And generally speaking, the long systems have to throw about 3 dB farther distance. That's a ratio of 1.4 to 1 is 3 dB. So 40% further is 3 dB. Okay, so then these are the upper mains, those delay systems which land upstairs. Okay, so this strange looking thing is how the coverage works. There's the lighting, and okay, and because this is a 2D picture, I'm slicing a picture. At this perspective, it looks like these are in front of the Leos, okay? And from other perspectives, these will look like they're under the Leos. And I'm going to go back to this picture, and if you do a slice looking this way, there's the Leo and there's the leopard, which again, see how they appear to be in front. But these, if you do a slice this way, then this one appears behind. It's all about 2D in a 3D world. So, so this really took some careful planning, I'll tell you. It took a lot of 3D decoding to get this thing figured out. That's my coverage. The Leos have to cover to 53 degrees. That's why I've got that marked there. And then they make their top and make peace with this guy. On some ends, there's no upper seating, so the Leos work alone there. And there's my staggered end fire that drops down to the floor. Okay? So there's your Leo mains and your upper mains getting the job done. And then this little pea shooter down here, that's a leopard as the front fill. We're going to see in a minute just how futile the leopard's life is. Okay, here's how my leopards finish the job. They bring it all the way down, and there's my minus 95, okay? And this picture here shows you how we figured out the leopards could cover it. This is a leopard facing straight down, and this is the actual spacing of leopards, and there's the listening plane right here where the stage is. Standing people are around 1.5 to 2 meters. And so I definitely had everybody covered. So that's the spacing that you saw around there. Remember I told you and showed you those squares? Well, that's what you got here. Okay, there's Leos. That was Leos and the upper mains. And okay, now we're going to look at the sides. This is the lion, the one that is 3 dB closer. And he goes, like I said, from plus 15, minus 53. Then the job is finished by the leopards. Okay, so there's the leopards from an angular point of view finishing the job. And that's your plus 15 to minus 95, your 110 degrees of vertical coverage. Okay, this is Lightzilla in action. And you can see how cool it is. These guys come down, they can spin around. And this is where I'm going to zoom in here, and you're going to see these are the stage monitors for the band, and this little guy right here, that's my front fill. How do you think that works? It does a good job of it's more of a massager for the security guard there who has a leopard hitting his back. Okay, I got it even closer. See, there it is. There's the leopard. So leopard was not a reliable partner for front fill, and instead we knew we had to get it done with the leopard down fill, and they did a super job. I'm not going to say sound was not in your face. Sound was hitting you upside the head, quite literally. Okay. So this is the horizontal coverage of the main systems, and that gets us around the room. The upper mains are the 90-degree Lion M, and the lower parts of them, whoops, back here is the Lion W, which is the sort of the lower, and then these, so that's how we connect. Then as we go up higher, we connect here, and then we add in those upper mains, okay? So you can look at this picture now. It's the same picture you saw before, but now you can look at it and having met the parts. There's your Leo mains. Out here is your upper mains. They're up above and out. There's your staggered subwoofers. There's your Leo downfill. or leopard downfill. There's your side hangs. Okay. Okay. This is now the subwoofers, which are angled down mechanically and steered down electronically. That's 63 hertz. You can see really, we really brought it down. Now, why is there no subwoofer here? Well, I'll tell you, there was a subwoofer right here, right under this leopard. But this is the story I was going to tell you. The subwoofers were right on the edge of the stage, in the same place where they had subwoofers for every other in the Round Metallica tour going back to when Jesus was born. But now that they had this great clean stage for the stadium tour, now suddenly we can't, it's like, this is such a problem, the subs on stage. So we ended up losing the battle and lost the subs on the deck, which really all I wanted them to do was just to fill in there and for the people up front. But so be it. Win some, lose some. This is how clean those staggered end fires are. Super clean stage, and I can tell you, Mick is mixing right here. As far as he's concerned, he is mixing on those subwoofers alone, and these ones do not exist. Now, you can remember the TM array located here. And here's a key thing, okay? The TM array here was much further away from the audience. And so they had to travel about 35 or 40 milliseconds before it passed the mains. So the mains had to wait for the TM array. So I'm going to go back one. Oop, I went back two. Yeah. So now think about if the TM array is back here at 0, these guys have to delay to that. Then they have to come down to the floor. And you're ending up being about 50 milliseconds behind the band, maybe 60 milliseconds, right? Because what am I? I'm 12 meters high. That's 36 milliseconds right there. So then you add another 10 milliseconds. That's another 10 meters. That's another. So you're at 66 milliseconds as opposed to now, these guys are 0 milliseconds. They get right to the floor. And who is it that has to wait? It's these guys. They get delayed. And the direct reverberant ratio is extremely high here. As you can see, we get the coverage we want, and we deliver super, super high direct reverberant ratio. So Mick had, even though he's looking at mixing off of 9 of these boxes when he's used to mixing off the TM array of 40, he's really mixing off 9, and he's got all the power that he needs. And that was that's not a small feat. Okay, so this is the 31 hertz, and there's the 63 hertz. We wouldn't want it any more directional. If we did, we would get too light in the corners. But as it is, we got really good distribution. These are where the VLFC ended up during the arena shows because, of course, we couldn't fly them because of the weight. So they are out in the corners. There's 4 stacks of them in the corners, and people would not know they were on until they turned on, because they use them just selectively. They don't run all the time, but when they come on for big accents, holy God, did they make an impact! And the people standing here drop their beers. It's kind of entertaining. We made a little sport of watching surprised people when those things came on. Okay, so what else? Okay, oh, well, this is the subwoofers in the previous tour. And there you go. So then here we are. You can see, here's those staggered subwoofers looking right down at you and steered at you. There's the outer mains. There's the leopard downfill, Leo mains, the long mains, subwoofers. And okay, there's that same picture again. This is what you see if you're in the front row. That guy has got you covered. Okay, and then here's Lightzilla in action. It's pretty cool. Some great projections. It's all the time changing. coming up, going down. There's my subwoofers over here. There's my subwoofers over there. And you can see we kept ourselves clean and way out of the way of the lighting, made a very happy and appreciative lighting designer. That's one of the, no, that's actually the big mother of all, nope, that's the subwoofers. Never mind. Leopards down there. I thought you could see the upper mains. I think they're right up here. But okay, so I think this one, when I trigger it, will make all sorts of sound. You notice the G demolished chord there. Okay, so that's a story there. And okay, just a couple more quick pictures. And then so the pyro effects are quite funny because they when they do their rehearsals, if they do the pyro with out the cue of the VLFCs, it sounds pathetic. It's just like this little tiny, and then when they do it with our boom, the same pyro is like, wow, man. Now I got one more thing to show you. It's really pretty cool. It's a thing called low mid beam control, and this is a phase steering where you can take the sound, and because the low frequencies, low mids in particular in line arrays, get steered downward. They don't respond to the splay angle, and they get steered down. And you could try to gain taper, and that's ineffective. And you could try if you screw up your splay angles to try to fix the low mids, it doesn't help and screws up your high end. So this is a phase steering that's implemented in our Galaxy processor. And you can see now this is the very system that you went through. This is the stadium system. And you can see at 125 hertz, you can see with no beam steering how the nose of the beam is way down here, and it's 6 dB down by the time I want to finish the coverage. But with the low mid beam control, it steers up. So there's low mid beam out, low mid beam in. Okay, it doesn't change the amplitude at all. It just does the steering by phase. Here is 250 hertz, which is steered down a really deep nose there, and then steered up. And here's 500 hertz with more like a glove and a finger, and then it lifts up the finger. By 1 kilohertz, we're getting the steering we need by our splay angle, and so we don't want it to change much, and it doesn't. What is this? Is this 1 kilohertz or 2 kilohertz? It's blocked on my screen. Is that 2K? Because I think it's 2K. But so you can see nothing's happening.
Yeah, sorry, I don't see it.
Okay. Well, up here it says what the frequency is.
Oh yeah, sorry, 4K.
Okay. Okay. So now this is the same venues. This is the delay system, and in this case, you can see I've got speakers aimed way up high here. I'm covering it. You saw it on the 4K. I showed you that 4K response, and it was beautiful. But holy God, I have missed the boat. I am 0 right here, -3, -6, -9. It's like, hello, and let's steer it up. Kaboom. It's a beautiful thing. 250, let's steer it up. 500, let's give it a little steer. 1K, let's pretty much leave it alone. 2K, leave me alone. 4K, I don't need your help. And it's nice, you don't screw it up. Now, this is then There's two different implementations for this. There's a beam spread implementation and a beam lift. The ones that you saw me use there is the beam lift implementation. I'm going to use the beam spread for the Lion side arrays that we have in the arena, in the round, which you remember are going from plus 15 to minus 53. That's 68 degrees. And we don't have enough spread in the low end, so boom, spread it out. Here we are at 250, spread it out. Here we are at 500, we'll really narrow it out, spread it out. Now by 1K, we're not going to want to do much. 2K, leave me alone. 4K, leave me alone. And there you go. And now you can see how much we've been able to create a uniform response through that thing. Instead of having this, we get that. It's a beautiful thing. And so you can basically just walk the thing up and down, and it's and you know, the tuning of it is just simple. You just have to implement the parameters of what speaker model it is, what the total display is, how many elements you have. You have to have the processing channels. So we used 16 processing channels to do this array, or you could do it in 8 pairs. But you can't triple up. You have to be at least, the most you can do is double up. So that's the end of my my little tour there. If anybody has any questions or comments, I'd be happy to hear them, but I hope you found that interesting.
Bob, that was great. Could you tell me about the specifics of the processing on the end-fire array to get it to steer down more than it already was?
Then down more than natural. So in order to do that, so an end-fire array by the normal, if you just do the normal, the distance equals the delay time, as in if you spread them a 1 meter spacing, then you put in 1 meter of delay, which is 2.94 milliseconds. In our case, it's 1.5 meters. And then what you do is you place a microphone down here, and then you make everybody converge to that point. So think about it as 3 pieces of string that you bring down to here, as opposed to if we just followed it straight, the 3 pieces of string would be here. Do I need to go back and show you a picture with the 3 guys on it? Or
No, I understand. You just changed the point of arrival, I guess.
Yes, of where the phase responses are maximally aligned. That's the key thing. Is it if you look at the normal implementation, I think I'm right here. The normal implementation, you would place your mic straight there. Okay, you would go straight on the line of it. But we moved that down because we knew we needed to pressure things to get as close to the stage as we could. If we had had those stage arrays, we would have been able to ease up the reins on that. And essentially, you ran out at a certain point. We found the how far you could bend it before side lobes started popping out, and that's the key thing.
And how did you find that out? I mean, I guess, were you just doing predictions in map, or did you find that out in the field? We knew from map where the bend was too far, so we made sure to, because it's very difficult to find a side lobe, especially one that's going up into the ceiling with a microphone. But you could see that if you try to bend it too far, you would see the power response would go down. Essentially, you're losing. And energy can't be lost or destroyed. So if you're sending it off on side lobes, you're not getting it into your main channel. Got it. And now you said you couldn't do that in the previous design outside with just 2 subs per element, I guess. But I guess now I don't understand why you couldn't do the exact same thing in that other design.
Okay, well, here's what. I want you to think about this as this is a 6 meter, or I'm sorry, 1.5 meter, 1.5 meters, 2.5, 3 meters. This is a 3 meter long pole, okay, in this domain. So I can bend that pole with delay, okay? So I can bend it down there because it's in this plane, okay? Now, I can't bend it very much, but I can bend it a bit down to here, okay? Then when we looked at this, back to the implementation of these guys, and I'll zoom in physically where they are. Okay, this is the closest one. Okay, so the pulling them out this way, you could get a little bit pulled out this way, but you could only get maybe about as much as we could on the other one, only about 10 degrees. And you really lose, if you go any more, you just lose efficiency. So there was some bendability, but I think the initial thing that we tried was leaving this intact and leaving this timing chain intact, and then dropping this whole set back by a millisecond or two. But you end up with you've now staggered a whole set of relationships, and that was not feeling good to most people, that we have sort of staggered two speakers that are next to each other in this. It's like a little too much complexity. So maybe we just weren't adventurous enough. Maybe we could have bent it more, but it'd be interesting to have, now that we know what we know from that staggered end fire, we probably could bend the both of them together, going, putting the mic here and doing the chiming chain that way, as opposed to, we tried to bend this one and this one to each other, but leaving their stagger. Run the ropes that way. So good. That's a really good question. And next stadium, I'm gonna see about implementing that.
Well, now that I think about it, I'm sure in the field that'd be kind of a scary thing to try if you haven't already run all the predictions to know what the maximum is before you get those side lobes. So I can understand the hesitation.
You want to know. You're dealing with so much power. If you try to play too much games with coupled subwoofers, you can get them to tear themselves to bits. The real cautionary tale is the TM array. That TM array has got, all the speakers are facing into this single point. Those speakers must be perfectly matched because they all must pressurize in the same way. If they get in any way out of time or out of phase with each other, one speaker will be pushing another one inward it'll be pushing inward and basically cause the other speaker. One speaker might be pulling while the other's pushing, and it'll push it right into the cabinet and bend the former. And the cautionary tale on that is that one time it was set up by a company, and they decided to do a different wiring scheme they thought would be cool, and they ran it off of one Galileo into the next and into the next. And so they ran it on 4 separate Galileos, but they ran output of one to the next and daisy chained them, which made you add 1.5 milliseconds of latency every time you went to the next column. So column 1 was 0 milliseconds, column 2 was 1.5, column 3 was 3, and column 4 was 4.5. 4.5 is basically 180 degrees at 110 hertz, it's enough to have caused the thing to, it blew up all the drivers.
That's terrifying.
80 drivers.
Well, Bob, no other questions came in, but
Really?
it's perfect timing because
I guess I put them to sleep then. Lullaby. Metallica does that.
That's the funny thing about doing these things, right? Is that you probably didn't see there was a lot of activity going on in the chat box. Lots of people laughing at your. I'm sure weren't jokes. We were laughing at your very serious conversation.
I never make jokes.
So, I know. So yeah, we were all really enjoying it. Looks like maybe one question has come through. What is the latency on Meyer's system? Alex says. I'm not sure what the context for that is. Alex, do you mean what system are you asking about the latency of?
Well, the Galaxy processor is in the 1 millisecond range, and then you end up with AVB. This is the world of networking, that you add latency as you go from multiple hops, and that's the nature of that. And the way that the AVB deals with that is a very, very intelligent system, and it makes everybody wait until the last, until everybody can go and work together. You can set, so what you do in AVB Galaxy is you do an inventory of your system, and then you find out what your total number of hops is, and therefore what the last guy is, and then make everybody wait. And that's generally, in practice with Metallica, was an additional 2 milliseconds. So basically, the system to get to a speaker was about 3 milliseconds in total.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I believe that was what he's asking about in the end, is the, I guess, total end-to-end latency.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Bob, this is actually perfect timing because we should transition into the next presentation. So thank you so much for being here. This is a really interesting story, a lot of great data here, and a hell of a lot of work.
Yes, indeed. Okay, well, thank you for having me, and take care.
All right.
Have a good night.
All right, you guys, so we've got Yohai back. We're going to talk about Sound Gym for a few minutes. Yohai, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. So just like yesterday, it's the middle of the night here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of drowsy, but I'll be fine.
Cool. Well, what would you like to do during this segment?
Yeah, so of course, if anyone has any questions about SoundGym, you're more than welcome to ask for inside the chat box or the Q&A. I would love to go through some games and see and show you some stuff around and see maybe hear some feedback from the participants. What they think they like more, what they think would be more useful for them inside their realm. Can you give me the screen share control?
Sure can.
Cool. So like yesterday, I'm going to share the sound and won't do that mistake again. Share my screen. Cool. So Nathan, for you, yesterday we covered EQ a little bit and talked about Peakmaster and EQ Cheetah. Which of the games will you think will be more relevant to your field? I can go through them slowly, and then they can choose one. We got the compression, which is based on
yeah, maybe DB King or the one that has to do with distortion.
Okay, cool. So let's start with the DB King. And DB King basically is a DB game. You get to choose sounds, and inside the sound, inside the game itself, you need to choose which sound is the more close to the right answer. I'll show you around a little bit. I'll choose the sound quickly because I know we're a little bit behind schedule here. Let's go with the synths. So in this game, you need to finish 12 steps to unlock the next level. Let's begin and show a little bit around. So I'm going to mute. And basically, you get two sounds, and the identification how much dB is added or discarded from its sound. You can sound the original, and you can sound the after the gain. After the gain is actually the thing that you need to listen to and compare it to the original. Once we do, we can choose which answer is correct. So let's try it out. This is the original sound, and this is after the gain. The original sound after the gain. I'm presuming this is the correct answer, and I'm right. Luckily, DB is a game that I'm good at. Thank you very much. Yay. And of course, just like all the other games, as long as you progress in the levels, as long as you keep practicing, the game becomes harder and harder to identify. The DB status goes down and down, which really helps you. I can tell you personally, from my personal experience in production, really helped me set the gains inside before a mix or in a rough mix when I do. Do you have some insights in the game from your field, Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, level setting and EQ, I feel like are probably level setting is the most important thing. I mean,
yeah,
mixing a live show, once you kind of get things dialed in, after that, it's mostly just controlling levels. And so, especially when you're mixing sound for a stage and maybe you can't hear exactly what's happening in front of a speaker, knowing how much 1 dB is versus 2 versus 7, or maybe when you're putting EQ filters in, like knowing what numbers correspond to what that sounds like in the room is really important.
Yeah, exactly. So again, just like any other game, you get a set of sounds to choose from. And of course, each sound has its own characteristics, which you can choose what is more relevant to you. So let's go back to the games. And you said the thing that will be more useful is the distortion, right?
Yeah, and I haven't actually gotten to play with that one yet, but I was curious about it.
I think I'm going to go through the list really quickly for everyone to hear and to learn more if they don't know Soundjam and the full array of games. So we have the games we spoke about yesterday, the EQ games, which is the EQ Cheetah and the Peakmaster. Basically, actually, really the same game, but in the EQ Cheetah, you get a time restriction limit and you need to choose as fast as you can the correct answer. We have a compressor game, which you need to choose from two sounds, which is more compressed. A filter, which is you need to identify the right free filter on the sound. A DB game, which we just showed. KitKat is like a Peakmaster, but upside down. When the bell is the sound is minus. We got Panman, which is really, really cool, but very hard to play on headphones, so I wouldn't even try. When you need to choose where the sound is coming from throughout the space. We got delay control, which means delay. You need to choose which delay is the right delay that you're hearing, if it's from 20 milliseconds to 1 second. The distortion reality, which is a distortion game. You need to identify distortion inside the sound, and we're going to go through it a little bit for now. And the next game we have is the reverb game, which you need to identify which is more reverb out of free sound. I'm going to enter the distortion reality. I will add also the Soundjam is an ever-evolving platform, which means that we are constantly adding games constantly adding features, and we are really carefully listening to our audience and to our users, what they need, and their feedback. So let's go for yeah.
Hey, could we play delay control instead of distorted reality?
Nah, let's go for it.
Okay.
So delay control. Cool. So each games has a very some games we cut out all of the sound features because some games really need specific sounds to work with and to play correctly. You can say that the options for sounds in delay control are more limited. As such, also with compression. Nathan, choose for us a sound, and we can go on. You're muted, man.
I'm pressing the wrong button. Oh, wow. I was thinking it would all be percussion. I guess, yeah, let's do piano.
The piano, cool. So let's play the game. This game also, you need to pass 12 levels to unlock the next level. And of course, as I said before, as long as you pass levels, the more difficult the games become. So just like before, we have with delay and the original sound that we can hear. And of course, we have which delay is inputted on the sound. So let's go listen to it and try to find the correct answer. I'm going to do one, then you're going to do one. So get ready, Nathan. And then we'll continue from there. Okay, this is the original sound. This is with adding delay. I'm going to go for the 80, and I'm probably correct. There's a really big difference from 80 to the big 750. So it's pretty much easy. I'm thinking this is more of the first levels of this specific game. And of course, the more you are up, the more difficult it will get. Nathan, go for it. You need me to sound the original?
90 milliseconds.
90 milliseconds, and you are correct. Cool. Yeah. If anyone in the chat box wants to set out an answer, they can do it. And we'll choose another answer, and then we'll go on from there. Nathan, but if you can tell me the answer, because I can't see the chat box without blocking my screen.
Pablo says 1 hour. No, I think he's talking about the schedule. Okay, I'll guess 250 milliseconds.
You're correct.
What?
Ouch. It's pretty tough. Yeah, I'm good. Cool. So, the games are mostly pretty much super easy to understand and super fun to play inside a daily workout. And really a cool break from doing anything you're doing or even from actual working, just to go on and playing a little bit. You're still immersing yourself with the sound world, learning more and experiencing more. And I think that's it for the games. I want to talk a little bit about, for just a few seconds, about the entire platform itself and some of its features. So the main dashboard I told you a little bit about yesterday, but we have some more cool segments here. The games section that we just sold, a status section where you can really compare yourself to yourself and to the other players inside of Sound Gym, and you can see how much you improved. I'm going to just jump into to my training history. This is my own training history, and you can really see the gap. So each member, which is a pro member, can see the gaps and see the stats and how much they increase over time, and get some cool insights like day and night. Which, cool fact, most people do much better at night on Sound Gym. We presume that probably is because it's really quiet all over. we have some more cool sections, and another section that I want to show is the video section. And the video section is, I think it's less relevant to live specifically, but a very, very cool feature to get some more input and more knowledge about sound in general. We just collect the best tutorials from production and music in general and sound from YouTube and categorize them for each section, and just easy thing to find and to look if you're looking for specific things inside of the sound realm. So I think that's it. I won't get up more of your time. So if anyone has any more questions they want to ask, you can go on for it.
No questions coming in yet. Did we talk about the giveaway yet?
I don't think we did. I don't think we did.
Yeah, the main thing that happened and it's over already is that in participation with Sound Gym, I conducted a lifetime pro membership to Sound Gym giveaway, and I just drew the contest winner this morning so I could announce it here. Unfortunately, I don't have the person's name, but their email address is John, Jon, and then I don't think I can tell you the rest of it, but it has the words South Bell in there somewhere. So I kind of don't think that person is actually here, unfortunately, but I did want to announce that. I thought it was a really cool thing to do. So I'm going to email that person tomorrow, and they're going to be super excited to win a lifetime membership to Sound Gym. So thank you for that, Johan.
It's our pleasure. As I said before, we are enthusiasts about sound and music, and we just want to help everyone to make better sound and music and enjoy music in general. So for last words, congrats for John and Dot, we don't know for now, for winning the lifetime giveaway. And thank you very much, Nathan, for hosting and creating and producing this wonderful event and letting us take part in it. And of course, I invite everyone to Sound Gym to go on board, to check it out, even just to see it, to experience some more. And I think that's it. So thanks a lot.
Cool.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Johan.
So bye-bye, guys. See you at the gym.
Nice.
Bye-bye.